you, and I leave the audience to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm trying to figure out what to say, and to tell you the truth, I did not prepare much, nor I'm here to say anything that is, stellar or out of this world. Just a few words and possibly a couple of thoughts. It's interesting because the whole concept of startup, the whole concept of coming up with an idea and some kind of believing in it, and then work to make it happen. It's a very, very interesting concept. Some way, somehow, Astronaut 2 had some kind of a eureka idea when they were a kid. My eureka moment was when I was a little kid and I was watching the American astronaut in space, actually on the moon, and so I would say, when I grow up I want to be an astronaut. And they would look at me and say, oh, bravo Paolo, bravo, study that you will become an astronaut. Because from a statistical point of view, at that time, many years ago, there were 0 Italian astronauts, 0 European astronauts. There were only very few people in the world that could go in space, and there were Americans or Russians. So the chances that a little kid from a little town in the middle of nowhere in Italy would go in space, they were essentially 0. And so they would tell me, yes, study that you will fly in space. But in fact, this is not far away from what happened now with some of these guys that come up with ideas and somehow don't look at all the statistics, because if you look at the statistics, it's very, very difficult to come up with an idea and transform it on something that you can sell, because you can have a beautiful idea, but if you cannot make it and you cannot sell it, then it doesn't go anywhere. But transform this idea into something that goes into production, something that is useful, something that people want to have. It's a very complex process, and if you are realistic and you look at statistics, it turns out that this is a very difficult thing to do. That doesn't mean that you should not do it, and I'm so glad to see that so many young people here believing on this crazy stuff of a talking Pythagoras, I don't even know how to say it in English, or a shoe that you can form the way you want it. I like this idea. When I do presentations for kids in school, and I always tell them that they should dream all the time, dream impossible things. If you dream something that is already there or that easy, that is a wasted dream. You should dream something impossible. That's a dream. Otherwise, it's not a dream by definition. So don't waste your time dreaming something that is already there. Dream something that, if you tell people, they look at you and they say, good, study, you will get there. And that's the point of dreaming. Then, when you have this idea, you should then wake up and start working on it. Because it's not so easy, it's complicated, it's difficult. You have the challenge of making things happen, the challenge of convincing people that it's a good idea, the challenge of transforming an idea into something that is viable, and it doesn't work most of the time, unfortunately. If you look at statistics, it does not work. You need to be realistic. But sometimes it works, and when it works, you really, really accomplish something that is out of this world. And so the bottom line is that I'm so glad to see that. I see so many young people, some not extremely young, but some people that have ideas and that put their passion, their efforts, their dreams into it, and they keep going until they make something happen, or they think about something else. And this is really, really good, and it's one of the reasons why somehow we have a future. I'm also, it's also interesting the fact that Italy is usually known for art, for culture, for the weather, for the food, for the mafia, for a little bit of, actually a lot of disorganization. And I'm an Italian, so I can say it's very disorganized, very chaotic. I like this chaos, continuous chaos, because actually, if you have things too much organized, then the molecule that jump up, it doesn't do it. So when there is a lot of chaos, it's very difficult to understand which one is the good molecule and which one are the bad. But there are molecules around, so you can look at it. And in Italy, somehow, I always like when I go back to Italy, because I see this chaos, but I see these peaks of things that I don't see in many other places, even though somehow it's less chaotic doing things. So I like the idea that people are coming here pitching you ideas, and I like the fact that you are looking at it and understanding that yes, in Italy art is good and food is definitely good, almost as good as the Japanese food. Weather is good and things like this, but there is also these peaks, and if you are able to catch some of those, we are going to go far together. So this was my thought. I don't know, should I say anything else? Any question? Did I forget something? Well, I'm talking, where's the... Come andiamo laggiù? Tutto a posto? All right. Any question? Anything? What we should say?
No, well, we have a question first of all, then I have a couple of two. Please, the mic. Yes, vengo io.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, maybe I'm speaking for everyone, but I'm kind of like interested to know, you went to space twice and you're going for the third time. How was your first experience? How was your second experience? And what are you looking forward in the third one?
Wow, are you a journalist or something? I mean, difficult to answer this question, and I'm trying to make it short, which is even more difficult. Going to space, it's something extraordinary. But the people that go to space themselves, I don't think astronauts are extraordinary people. Everybody thinks that astronauts are these geniuses, somehow halfway between Olympians, scientists, crazy guy, they do impossible things. Maybe at the beginning. Now, astronauts, my definition of astronaut, it's a guy or a girl, it's a person that is able to do almost everything at a decent level. Because in fact, they send you in space, on the space station, for example, they send you there for 6 months, and you are the only resource that is in there, which means that you have to work as the electrician, as the plumber, as the cook, as the scientist that is operating a genetic experiment, or a metallurgic guy that is doing a science things, or somebody that works on mice, and so you have to be like be able to do this thing. Or if somebody gets sick, you have to be the doctor. So these are astronauts. Being able to do this, it's very nice. I mean, the experience of being in space, first of all, to achieve this thing is very, very good. As when you are able to do something impossible, like you do, it's very fulfilling. It's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time. This is one of the problems here. I think I was hired as or selected as an astronaut in 1998 by the Italian Space Agency. I ended up flying in space almost 10 years later. I mean, it took 10 years just to fly. Second time, the first mission that I did was a short mission on the space shuttle, and the second one was a long 6 months in space, so completely different missions. I was looking forward to work and experience that. And the third one, I'm trying now to enjoy things a little bit more, instead of being there completely focused on what I'm doing. I'm already enjoying the training much more than I was enjoying before, because there are exams, continuous exams. This morning I've done 2 exams to Cuba. but now I know stuff and I just review things. So going to space, it's a unique thing, and I'm finishing now because you get two things that you cannot get anywhere else on Earth. You know, if you fly, if you take an aircraft here and you fly to Australia, yes, you see a little bit different environment, but the air is more or less the same. You sleep the same way, you eat maybe different things, but in a same way. And you go to space, and everything is changed. You have to learn everything. You have to become an extraterrestrial person. There is no more gravity. You're floating around. You walk with your hands and you stand somewhere with your feet. You have to use the space in a completely different way. And this is a very interesting, exhilarating process. It takes quite a while to learn how to behave in this environment, but you become really, you feel like Superman, the Spider-Man, you know, are able to pick up stuff, and it's difficult when you come back to Earth and you become terrestrial again, you know, you get into trouble. And the second thing is the capability of looking at the Earth from a different point of view. I always say that here on Earth we are, it's like if we were at the museum and we are looking at a painting with our nose attached to the painting like this. You know, suppose you're looking at the Mona Lisa from Leonardo da Vinci like this. You can see an eye, or you can see a hair or something. But if you want to see what the painting is telling you, then you need to stand away, and you have a completely different view. And this is what happens when you fly in space. You look down at Earth, and suddenly you see things with a completely different way. You have this complete view. You know, every astronaut says you don't see borders from Earth, and you see completely different things. And this is very, very nice view, but also gives you a lot of completely different dimensions on how to look at this. So I wish everybody in the future, and we are getting there, thanks to startup like yours, we are starting building up this tourism in space. And you know, Elon Musk with SpaceX had a startup too, like 15 years ago, and his idea was, I want to go and live and die on Mars. And somebody told me, yeah, right, study that you will go. Well, it's just about to go. So things are possible when we dare to dream, and when we don't give up and do things.
Yeah, well, that's very inspiring. This way to think, to create a startup as to become an astronaut. That's why I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, during the process to become an astronaut, you had some moments when you thought that you were ready to give up because the things were becoming too hard. So how you cope with that? And the second question is...
Well, one at a time, because my buffer is too short. You know, I am a guy that eventually gets to do what he wants to do, but things don't happen so easily. I mean, I really have to work for things, you know, like in school. I mean, I've never been a genius. So there are two choices. Either you are a genius that you don't study and you know things, or you work really hard and you get somewhere. And I am on the second category. Yes, there were moments where things didn't work, there were, you know, challenges. I always had some sort of complication. But I'm also a stubborn guy. I mean, and when I point my direction on something, you know, I get thrown here and there, but I you know, kind of look at the future and try to keep going there. I don't let people tell me that something is impossible. If I decide that something is possible and I want to go for it, I don't care. I don't hear stories of not possible or whatever, you know. So I think you just need to be determined. Know that you, one important thing, this is a very important point. Nobody's perfect, and we are going to fail in one way or the other. The difference is the people that fail, they learn from the mistake, and start again, knowing what mistake they've done and try not to do it again. And that people instead, they fail and they just give up, or they fail and they don't learn from the mistakes and keep doing the same mistake. So one of the things that I think people should really be careful on is to understanding that there will be mistakes, there will be failures, there will be moments where things will not go, but those are the moments where you really learn. And if you understand, if you take this error, you put it in front of you, pick out the important parts, the learning points, you pick them out and keep them from with you, then you take the rest and you throw it away and you keep going. Because if you keep it in front of you, it's gonna hinder you, it's gonna block you. But if you throw it away and you keep going, then you're stronger than when you were before. And this, I think, is one of the things that I always try to do in my life, and I suggest you really do and focus on keep going.
Yeah. Keep inspiring. Yeah. See the startup. They completely understand it. That's what I mean. The only question was if for any reason the astronaut career won't go through, you had a plan B?
Well, yeah, it's not that, yes. I knew, you have to be realistic. You know very well that being an astronaut is almost like winning the lottery. I kind of joke again when I do presentation at school. I tell them, you know, it's, for example, in Italy, there are something like 18 ministers of the government, and they change fairly frequently. So it's easier if you just one day wake up and say, I want to be a minister, than an astronaut. You know, the astronauts are 2 or 3 and they don't change for 15 or 20 years, but the ministers change pretty quickly. It's more complicated to be the Pope. So if you want to be the Pope, it's a little bit more complicated. Then somewhere the astronaut is here, and then the minister is down there. So I knew that, you know, I didn't want to be a minister, or at least this was the situation. And my idea was that I wanted to be an engineer. And this is what I thought. You know, I always like to take things apart. I always like to do crazy stuff. I always like to challenge myself. And so I became an aerospace engineer, and I started working as an aerospace engineer. So with the idea that eventually, when the possibility will come, I will try to apply to be an astronaut. But I know that the possibilities were very, very low. In fact, as a matter of fact, I applied the first time. I went through the whole selection process all the way to the end. I was in the last little few people, and then I got a telegram. We used to use telegrams at that time, and the telegram said, Mr. Nespoli, congratulations for having made all the way to the end, but you are not being selected. And so I kind of threw away the thing and cried a little bit, and then kept going, waited another 4 years, another selection. I applied again and again for 6 months. I went through the whole selection process from the beginning to the end until I got the telegram again, and I opened the telegram and it said, congratulations, you made it to the end, but no selection. So, third selection, so I applied for the third time, and now I started being a little bit old, you know, and I went through again the whole thing, and eventually I was selected. So don't give up so easy in life.
Yeah, don't give up.
So, and I studied as an aerospace engineer, and I started working as an aerospace engineer, and I would have continued to be an aerospace engineer. I would have loved to be here presenting some ideas. Somehow the astronaut, people don't even think about this one, but astronauts somehow have to give up their dreams. The other dreams, I mean, the dreams of creating something strange, or the dreams of discovering something. And some of my colleagues, this is a very strange. We have a physicist, one of the American astronauts. He's totally crazy. God knows what he would have invented or come up with if he would have worked in a crazy lab. You know, if he would have worked for DARPA or for God knows what. Instead, it's now a space mechanics, because that's what an astronaut is. It's a space plumber, or the hand of the scientist that does things. But so for whatever glamour there is on the astronaut career, you have given up something else. So I like to think that, if I would have continued to be an aerospace engineer, I would have created some of those engines for deorbiting the satellites, or aerospace shoes that would walk by themselves, or God knows what. I tell the kids in school, please, can you invent the teletransportation machine, the one that they have in Star Trek? Pick me up, Scotty.